Hello, everyone. We are live. This is Tali-PHD, and that stands for the proper human diet, but also it stands for the holistic doctorate that I am now working on in functional blood chemistry and functional nutrition. And this podcast is a little darling of mine, and I bring on guests every week that are also part of the carnivore lifestyle. So I'm going to introduce my guest in a moment. I'm just waiting for some people to pop on. It is 6 p.m. right now, Mountain Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going live right now. And Cholo is here. Cholo is my cat. He just came into the room. Hope everyone is doing well. And tonight, I do have a wonderful guest with a wonderful topic. Those of you who are single and dating, this might be very entertaining and enlightening. Even if you're married, I think this is going to be an enlightening show. My guest today is Heather Coutinho. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. And she's in her 30s and she is single and carnivore. In fact, she just made it to the 100-day mark. She's a little bit over that as far as being carnivore. And so we're going to get into dating and carnivore in a moment. Before we get started, just a little background on myself. My name is Tali. I'm a former pharmaceutical sales representative. I used to sell a statin, and now I eat as much cholesterol as I possibly can. I am part of the carnivore lifestyle community. I have been carnivore for about 7 months, and my health has tremendously improved. I'm a breast implant illness survivor, and it's been 8 years since I've had breast implants, and I have been detoxing and trying to heal from mold toxicity and all the adjuvants that I was exposed to. And it's been a long journey. Before we get into our discussion tonight, I do want to say that Heather and I both are not doctors. We're not medical doctors. And any information that we share tonight is purely for educational purposes only. So, Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself to everyone out there.
So I am Heather Coutinho. Yes, awesome job pronouncing it. Thank you, Tali. I live by myself with my dog, Doug, and I have my own business doing youth life coaching. I started on carnivore about, like you mentioned, 100 days ago, just hit my 3 months recently. And I started because I have joint pain. And that's kind of like what led me to want to start it. I had tried so much other stuff, supplements. I tried stretches. I tried all these things, acupuncture, and nothing was really doing it. And someone, I heard about carnivore and I was like, all right, let me try it. I shouldn't be having joint pain in my 30s like this. And it's been a game changer, huge, huge game changer on the joint pain.
Pain went away on carnivore.
I'm sorry, say that again. You cut out.
How long did it take for the joint pain to go away?
Okay, so the main pain was in my hands always. Like I work out every day, but I couldn't do a high plank or a push-up because it would hurt my hands too much. Around day 10 or 11, I was able to do push-ups on strict carnivore, 10 or 11 days. And I went to, it was a group workout. I wasn't able to do all of the push-ups in the workout. I want to say there were 4 30-second blocks and I did 2 or 3 of them as push-ups where I'm like, I haven't done like this in 5 years.
That's absolutely incredible. Just not a lot of time at all and the joint pain's gone. So you said strict carnivore. So a lot of people don't know how to distinguish, well, what are these levels of carnivore? So can you just explain what strict carnivore means to you?
Yeah. So for me, that means meat, eggs, butter, and salt. As much as I love bacon, I'm not doing bacon because it has typically additives, preservatives, things to keep it, delicious. So I'm not doing bacon, the spices, the sugar, I'm not doing that. I do a lot of ribeyes. Mostly every day I eat like a roughly a pound ribeye. I do ground beef, the fatty kind. What I always talk to the butcher, whatever is like the 30% fatty kind of ground beef. I do a lot of eggs, sometimes a chuck roast. Occasionally I do chicken or some seafood, but it's not that common because it doesn't fill me up. I'll
Yeah.
do it kind of like sometimes I do where I'll cook a whole chicken because I make bone broth out of the bones. So then I have that chicken meat. I'm still going to eat it, but it doesn't. I mean, I could eat the whole thing and I'd probably still be hungry.
Yeah, I found that too, that I don't even crave it anymore. Or when I eat it, I'm just not satisfied. I'm like, ugh. But red meat, that's where it's at. And most of us carnivores, that is what we eat. So you are single.
Yes, I am. Uh-huh.
So where are you currently meeting men?
I'm not that often, honestly, because it's difficult. Like to find the single men. I feel like I meet married men when I go out networking, and I don't want to talk to them beyond like friendly and business purposes. Like that's great, but in terms of meeting single men, it's difficult. I try the dating apps. I don't. I feel like they make me feel more hopeless the more I'm on the dating apps.
So
I don't know
what
if
dating
you
apps did you try before?
Oh gosh. Okay. So most recently, Facebook dating. In the
Okay.
past, I've also tried Hinge. I've
I
tried,
know that one.
yeah, right. And it's weird. A lot of people in my area seem to like Hinge. I don't get matches on Hinge. I don't know if it's just because I'm like, hey, I'm super into health. Here's something that's not going to work for me. Here are the great things about me. And maybe I'm just like too upfront about things and they want the like, hey, I just want to do hair and makeup. Like, I don't know. And that's okay for those girls, but that's not me. I'm like, here's me, take it or don't. And Hinge guys seem to not want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like I kind of want to see your former profile to see what you put out there. So you're saying you said that, you're into health and fitness, and did you say that you eat carnivore?
So on my most recent profile I made, yes, I put on because I also part of my pictures, right? I dyed my hair red recently as well. It's funny. The guys at the shooting range, when I walked in with red hair, they go, "Hey, you got your hair to match your food." I'm like, "Hey, it does look like the inside of my cooked steak, huh?"
Oh, that is so
Yep.
great.
Right. So yeah, I put on there because like most of my pictures, a lot of them were me with not red hair. So I wrote, like carnivore lifestyle, recently a redhead, to just kind of like, get that part in there. But yeah, most of it was just like, it's really important that, my health is important. I hope yours is too. That means no injections, no chemicals. Like I avoid these things and I hope you do too, because health is important. Fitness is important, a healthy
And
lifestyle.
that and that's the thing, is that carnivore is not just about just eating meat, but something that I've found in the carnivore community is that many of us, nearly all of us, are very awake and aware. And that, this idea of eating toxins or not eating toxins, we decide no, we're not going to eat toxins even from plants or plant chemicals that are harmful, but it extends from there to we're not going to have this in our life or that in our life. And it's a lifestyle.
Right.
So yeah, no injections, and finding somebody who's like-minded along that. So when you put that out there, what are some of the responses that you received online to your profile?
Some, well, and I guess too, because I live in South Carolina, and so it's, there is a lot of farm kind of places nearby. So sometimes I get a positive like, hey, I'm into that too, really, live out on the farm. And then I'm like, okay, so do you do anything for fun also? Like, no, okay. And then I also get ones who, similar to me, relocated here because they were escaping states where this healthy lifestyle is not accepted, where everyone's following, the herd of what they're told to do. So
Yes.
that works in a way, but then I don't know, it's just been hard to really like connect. I'm not part of what I think a healthy lifestyle is also like not staring at your phone for hours and hours and hours on end. So like that's also I feel like why online dating is so hard for me because I'm like, okay, how many hours are you what's your screen time like? Like I monitor my screen time. Do you? No, you just stare at your phone all the time. So that's another thing that I'm like, well, I'm not trying to be on here messaging for hours a day because I don't look at my phone that much.
Were you finding that it was just a lot of work with not a great ROI?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's where I'm like, it's so hard to even get a date, which I think is I'm like, okay, I think I'm good looking enough and I'm interesting. Why is it so hard to get a date?
It seems like it's absolutely getting harder
Hmm.
out there, and it does seem like there's, you'll never run out of people to talk to online, but they are just there kind of to waste your time. I don't know
Right.
if you have felt that way, but I have felt that I have engaged in conversation. Again, I'm in a different age group, so I'm in my 50s, not my 30s. But it's like it's the same thing. It's the same thing as it was in my 30s, that you're engaged in conversation and it goes on and on and on. And my expectation is that the man is the one who asks the woman out for a date. Would that be your expectation too?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's where like I actually put that in my profile along the lines of like, hey, I prefer meeting in person. I'm not much of a texter, so just go ahead and like, like let's not do endless texting. Ask me on a date. And
And do
that's
they
just
ask?
no, like not really. Or it's like the complete other end of the spectrum where the first message will be asking me on a date where I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, let's like at least like a little bit, like something,
Right.
say something to show me you actually read my profile. Cause that's what I feel like most of it. It's just like, hey, how was your day? Like
Yes.
I don't work like a 9 to 5, right? Like I have my coaching business, I have other stuff, other jobs too, where I'm like, I don't really want to give you a play-by-play of like what meeting I went to, what client I had, a consultation. Like I'm not doing that with you. You're a stranger. So what it was good. My day was good. Okay, where is this going now? Okay, nowhere. Great. And that's at one point I had on a profile like P.S. I'm having a good day. You don't need to ask. Like, it's so frustrating. Like, hey, what's up? I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that. Like,
They almost act as if they have known you forever and are just kind of popping into your life to say
right.
hi, and yet you have just given them a very nice, well-written profile with lots of information about things that you want them to engage
Yeah.
conversation with you about. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Like I
But
like
they
give
don't
it
but they don't
enough.
read it.
Right. And that's where like I give enough so that they have something to ask about, like there's a picture of my dog, like you can ask something about the things that are on
What's
my
your
profile.
dog's name? Where do you
Mhm.
like to go take them for a dog walk? Or no, but instead
Right.
they say, "Hi, how are you?"
Right. And it's like, okay, I don't have time for 80 how are yous. So bye-bye. So yeah,
Yeah.
that I feel like it ends up making me feel more hopeless most of the time. So I have this kind of pattern where I like get on the apps and then I go on a date or two and then I get off the apps. Whether one of those dates turns into we date for a few weeks or not. Like I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And then a few months pass where I don't go on any dates at all. And then I'm like, all right, I'll get back on the app.
So when you tell men that you are carnivore, you follow the carnivore lifestyle, what has been the response that men have given you to that information?
Okay, so this one was kind of funny. I want to say it was like right when I started Carnivore or right before, something like that. And I think it was on Tinder. They have like carnivore, omnivore, vegan as options,
Yeah,
right? So the guy had carnivore on his
right.
options. I was like, hey, that's amazing. I'm just starting carnivore. What's your experience with it been? And he goes, what do you mean? I just like to eat meat. Like, do you do the carnivore lifestyle? He's like, I don't know. I just eat meat and whatever else is available. I'm like, Okay, we're not on the same
Yeah.
page. That's called an omnivore, actually. That's an option is omnivore, and that's okay. That's okay. Don't say you're a carnivore if you're eating like just you go to wherever and eat whatever. Do you know what that means?
So they were absolutely clueless. But
Yeah.
when you've explained it to
Yeah.
them, what have guys what has been the response from men with that?
It's funny. So yeah, like right before this, I was at a workout, a group workout, and I mentioned to someone that I, eat carnivore, and he was like, "Wait, I have a lot of questions. I've heard of this." We were in the middle of a workout, so we didn't get to the questions. But yes, and I've other guys have been like, "Oh, I've never met one who actually does that." I've never met a female who does that, which I think is
That's what I was
interesting.
wondering because I think
Yeah.
that the stereotype is that women just eat salads, and I guess in this guy's mind, he's thinking, well, she's gonna sit there and eat this big old ribeye steak, and
Uh-huh.
and what if he orders the salad? If you're on a date and he orders the salad, what would your response be?
I mean, to each their own. That's kind of how I feel. Like if it works for you, I would hope he at least has like grilled chicken or steak or shrimp on top of the salad and it's not just like iceberg lettuce and tomatoes. I would hope there's meat on top of it.
Right, what if
Uh,
it's tofu?
yeah, see, and that's where like that wouldn't work. Even before I started carnivore, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to date a vegan because like how could we share meals? How could we cook together? That just wouldn't work for me because we wouldn't be on the same page. And now being carnivore, yeah, if you're like a vegan, I just don't know how we could make that life together.
Yeah, I absolutely agree because I think a lot of relationships are built around a kitchen or
Yeah.
a grill.
Yeah. Right? That was a lot of like how I was raised because I am Italian. My father always showed love by food. That was what they're synonymous. So it's like, okay, well, if we don't do food together, then what is love? Like, how do I know if we can't even eat a meal or cook together?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're not doing so right now you're taking a break from the online dating. You're not on the online
Yeah, I
dating
mean, I'm
apps.
like still on there because I'm meeting someone the one this weekend. So I'm gonna see how that goes. But I'm not doing it. I'm not scrolling. I'm done. I asked God what to do because right, like you mentioned, I'm in my 30s. Like I'm at the time where I want to meet someone, settle down, and have a family. Like start that. There's only so many more years left that I'll be able to do that. And I'd like to have the relationship stable first. So like, okay, let's make it happen. And I feel like I've been really focused on it too much. So I asked God, what do I do? What's left? Because I feel like, I'm doing all the like self-love, taking care of me, making me the person I'd want to date. And that's really hard then. And God was like, you need to surrender. You're doing the thing. Stop thinking about it so much. Stop focusing on it and just live and live in love. And I'll take care of the rest. So I said, okay, God, fine. I'm going to try harder to surrender to you. Okay.
And
That was about a week ago. So still in the works, I guess. But honestly, since that I was doing the dishes, since God and I had that conversation, I feel like I haven't been focused on it as much. This one guy who we were, messaging on a dating app, and then now we've talked on the phone a couple times and planning on meeting this weekend. So like we'll see how that goes. But I'm just really like not as hyper focused on it, I think. Which I
yeah.
think when the more we overthink about things, we're pushing them away, right? It's that whole law of attraction. And I
Yep.
think though,
Yep.
when it's like, this has to happen, this has to happen, it has to happen, that ends up pushing it away. And that's
I
kind of
saw
what
that
I've
post.
been.
I know what post you're referring to because I
I
saw
did
that
see that
post
one too.
today
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
in one of the
Right.
carnivore groups, and it really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been very busy just with school and the podcast and work and studying and everything. And I have actually seen, that resonated with me because I've seen that in action, that when I'm not hyper focused on my personal life or so forth. I'll be walking across a parking lot and there's like a couple really attractive, very masculine, manly guys, and they're like, well, hello there, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part of my life. But it's
That's
sometimes when
awesome.
we don't put the focus there, that's when it kind of comes to us, or we are attracting it
Yeah.
to us that way. But why do you feel it is so hard these days for people to connect?
Social media in many ways, I think, makes it really difficult because so many people are just like honed in on their phones and honed in on this like not reality. And I think that makes it harder to then be in reality and in person. Don't get me wrong, like it has its perks, right? We met via social media.
Right.
Right? Like it, and that's like I love the carnivore lifestyle. It like that group really helps because
Mm-hmm.
how else would I know what's going on? I think I've posted in that group, I don't know how many times because I get guidance from it from people who have experience, right? Especially in topics like this where it's not, a little more taboo. It has its perks for sure, but I think it takes away the human connection in many ways. And I think that makes it
I
then
do too.
harder when you're not like oh, hey, let's, do it for the gram and like just constantly like, oh, I have to post this on my story. It makes it hard to connect, same kind of thing like with the health when everyone's talking, like, oh yeah, like last night I was drunk and then ate, fast food at 2 a.m. on the way home from the bar. And now, oh, I can't meet for the workout this morning. It's like, I can't connect then. It just makes it difficult. And like I'm sorry I don't feel well, but it's hard to like it just makes it hard to connect. Like, and I've been there before, don't get me wrong. Right. And like I've been where I spend too much time on my phone and then I feel like I'm disconnecting from life and human life. So then I actively work on not doing that.
Putting the phone down and trying to do
Hmm.
something in real time that
Yeah.
doesn't involve a screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've even, because in the evenings, if I'm working or in front of a screen, I have these like big bug glasses that I wear that are the blue blockers.
Yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
because I really think that our circadian rhythms are really suffering from all the screen time as well, which is eventually also going to impact hormones,
Yes.
which I think, is again a chain reaction that might make people more lazy, less
Mhm,
motivated, less testosterone, more hormone imbalance. And then we're
mhm,
back to seeing the social dynamic where men don't pursue, or I
mhm,
mean, and there's problems with women as well. I'm not saying it's just men, but there's problems
mhm.
with women as well. So in real time, when you have met somebody, where are these random meetings happening, and also how are those chance encounters different than when you meet somebody online?
Okay, that's a difficult one because I feel like it's really hard to meet chance encounters. Like I hang out at the butcher counter for so long. I'm just like, hello, are no other
That is
men buying ribeyes today?
what a great place for carnivores to meet. Just hang out at
Right?
your butcher shop.
Right? Like I'm literally there because I know all the butchers. So we talk and I'm there for sometimes 30, 45 minutes. Like, does no
Ask
one
the
else?
butcher if he has any, does he know any single guys that are coming in there to buy meat, or any carnivores?
I should ask him because I know there are, I think, two other carnivores who go to the same place I go to, but I don't know their, marital status or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tricky. Maybe I'm just
Right.
thinking maybe like a middle person, like if the butcher can just
Mhm.
keep an eye out and
Yeah.
then, ask a few very basic questions and just get the information. Like, if he's just ordering one steak, that might be a good indicator that he's single.
Possibly. However, I get the whole ribeye loin.
Yep.
So,
And
and
then you
that's
cut
like,
it? Do you cut it
yeah.
at home?
No, they cut it for me
Oh,
for
they
no
cut it for
charge.
you.
Yeah, no extra charge. And these cows have had no antibiotics, no hormones, no vaccinations,
Grass fed, grass
100%
finished.
grass fed. Yup. So I'm like, all right, yeah. And they cut it for me, fantastic. And they'll wrap them each separately because I make sure to ask that. That might be a good indicator of single. I say, can you wrap them separately? Because that way I only thaw one at a time.
There you go. There might be some
Mhm.
indicators. A butcher
Yeah.
might be the carnivore's matchmaker.
That's I love that. Yes. Some butcher should make that a thing, like become the carnivore matchmaker.
The carnivore matchmaker. Hey, $1 million idea right there. The carnivore
Right?
matchmaker.
Right? I like that. And
Uh,
they could like, network with all the different butchers in the area and just like, all right, what carnivores do you know? Let's see if they're single. Let's join this, make it a thing.
it's a
Profit off.
meetup.
Yes, right? The
Yeah.
butcher's got it.
Oh gosh. So you've shared with me that you've had these a few weeks long or a couple months long relationships. So, you know, tell us a little bit about how that goes and then what happens that they just kind of fizzle or fall apart. What happens there?
Okay, so I'd say it's been kind of a variety. And mostly with the ones I meet online, it just kind of fizzles. Like I kind of start to lose interest, I would say, for the most part. Um, Either just it's interesting, right? It's the ones who online like check all my boxes, right? Like the ones who like do work out and do have a fitness routine and again like checks the boxes, like has a decent job, like lives independently, doesn't live with his parents at 30, 40 years old, right? Like
Right.
all these, I'm like, okay, check, check, check. Okay, we're good. And then we meet and there's like not much chemistry.
Mhm.
And that's where
Yeah,
then
it was
like,
good on
don't,
paper.
yeah.
He checked the boxes, but he was good on paper. But then when you met, the chemistry wasn't there.
Exactly. And that's where like I can't compromise on chemistry because like how can this work for the rest of my life? But okay, you know what? First couple dates maybe it wasn't there. Let's try. Maybe it'll develop, maybe it'll grow. And then it doesn't. So it's like, all right, this is a wash. You're great. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend for somebody else, but not going to work for me chemistry wise. A couple others who like weren't necessarily online. This is what I find interesting for me. The guys who I date who we don't meet online, either, it's like through a friend or, like met out somewhere and have amazing chemistry, like get along great in that regard, but have like different lifestyle choices.
Hmm.
And that one's really hard for me because I'm like, the chemistry is great.
Yeah,
Their
and you
aren't there.
met organically, so it's like you
Mhm.
were connected because of that chemistry. But then as you slowly get to know them, you realize, oh, we are so different. Yet
Mhm.
online, you get so much information on the front end, and then from that information, which is more brain connection. It's, you know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Because it's not a body connection, it's like a brain connection where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this person checks all the boxes. I have 3 months worth of information.
Yep.
And yet when you meet, then your bodies, like your chemistry or whatever, and you're like, oh hell no.
Right. Right? It's that like pheromone exchange. Like
It is. Yep.
there was one guy I was dating for like a month or so where I could literally smell his pheromones and I did not like them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What
And
was
it's
what was
interesting.
turning you off? It wasn't like body odor. It was just
No,
something
no.
about him.
It was not body odor, it was pheromones. And it was interesting because he would say to me that he could smell my pheromones and he really liked them.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, "How do I say I don't like your pheromones?" Like, "But you're really nice and you check my boxes, but it's not
Were
there
you
for."
carnivore at that time?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
All right.
no. Um, yeah, and that was when I was like, "Hey, you're great. It's not gonna work." Like, again, like, would recommend to somebody else. Great guy, not for
Mhm.
me. And then there was another one who, like, got along this one we met organically, got along great. at first anyway. Things kind of changed a little bit, but like whatever. And I remember one night, and this was before Carnivore, he had a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, like the, big bag, and was eating them in bed. And I was like, wow, I haven't had Doritos in like years. Cause even before I started Carnivore, I was, eating healthy. Like I was eating my vegetables and my meat, I was like doing all the like healthy sort of things. And I was like, wow, it's been so long, but I used to love Doritos. Let me get one. And I'm like, wow. Oh wow, that's really good. I forgot about these. We get more. And then next thing I know, I've eaten handfuls of Doritos. And I'm like, ew, now I feel like garbage. My mouth tastes like chemicals. I'm in bed eating a bunch of Doritos. Ew, who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? This is awful. Get those Doritos out of here. And then it just kind of makes me think like, this is like, why do you have Cool Ranch Doritos like in your cupboard?
Yeah.
Is that acceptable? Like keep them there? Is it just like for a rainy day?
Well, the lifestyles were a clashing.
Yeah, and he actually, that one, like generally, like he wasn't carnivore, but like mostly ate carnivore and like mostly ate meat. But then had this like, wanted some Doritos and a beer and yeah. And I'm like, I can't be around it because it's tempting. And once you eat one, it's like an addiction.
Yeah, it really is an addiction. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. So it was
exactly.
almost like a bad influence. It was like,
Yeah.
it was almost like he was doing crack
Yeah.
in the bed.
Right. And I'm
And
like,
it was
let me just
Doritos.
get one. Let me just get one hit of that. Right. I mean, and that's how I think it is too, like sugar. Because right before I started Carnivore, I had gone a couple times where I'd do 0 refined sugar. And at the first time I started doing that, I noticed I would like get this mental craving, like, oh, I finished dinner, time for dessert. And I would just like look in the cupboard at all my dessert options and just like impulsively start eating dessert, like a habit, and then be like, oh, I got ice cream in there too, right? Oh yeah, I need more. Let me get more. It's really an addiction. And that's where like I don't want to be addicted to anything. I don't drink coffee anymore because I don't like being addicted to things and needing a substance that alters my mind.
Yep. I use it as a vehicle for my butter.
Oh, nice. Nice. That works, right? I use my bone broth as a vehicle for extra butter.
That's
I heard of
probably a
everyone
lot
doing,
better.
yeah, I mean, I heard of everyone putting butter in their coffee. So I was like, all right, I could put it in my broth. Why not? It tastes
Yep.
great.
Any way you can get it down. It's like, trying to get that stick of butter. I'm like half a stick of butter a day. But we all know what happens when we overdo it with the butter.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Exactly.
Our bodies will let us know that we're overdoing it with the butter.
And that's what I think though is so amazing. Like you get to learn these things about what works for you and what doesn't, what's too much, what's too little. I've noticed too, because I put Soleil water in all my water. But when I was doing, right, Soleil, like the jar with concentrated salt water, basically, I put a little bit in all of my water. I was doing too much of it. And I found out because I had a headache and I wasn't feeling well. So I was like, I think maybe I'm overdoing it. So I cut it back just a little bit and I'm like, oh, headache's gone. Fantastic. And I was getting like muscle cramps in my legs, like Charlie horses. And I'm like, I think I have too much salt. Okay, this is too much.
Not enough potassium.
Yes. And then now I got potassium as a supplement and just cut back on the salt, like just a little bit in my water, not a ton. Like I was doing what was it? A half a tablespoon per 8 ounces. And now I'm doing like 1 whole tablespoon for 32 ounces, I think is what it is. I don't know exactly. It's, the measurements
You
don't
found
line
what
up.
works.
Yeah, I like found the measurement that works and it works. Fantastic. It might change.
I mean, it's so cool because it's like you're your own boss. You're your own
Yeah.
boss of your body.
Yeah.
It's like I'm in charge. And I say
Right.
that to myself all the time, like I'm in charge of all that of
Mhm.
this. I'm in charge. It's not like I'm putting faith, or you're not putting faith into somebody else to be in charge of your body. You're like, this isn't working. I'm going to try this.
Mhm.
And you're also relying on your own innate intuition. So it's also hard to find somebody who thinks that way as well, who isn't like, oh, my doctor, my doctor, my doctor, my doctor, my doctor, my doctor. I got to go to the doctor. Oh, my doctor says.
Yep. See, and that I think is the hardest part for me because I'm so the opposite of that, whether it's about nutrition or just like overall health. I don't rely on that and trust it. I'm like, oh, if the doctor says it, I'm probably not going to do it, actually. Like, chances are, maybe I'd consider it, but probably not. Yeah, I try not to do that just because, yeah, like I've personally had a lot of negative experiences with doctors, specifically like mental health, where I was not in a good place for so long and then realized eventually that, like, oh, the doctors have been poisoning me for like 18 years. They've poisoned me. And since getting off of everything that the doctors said to do is the only time, the happiest I've ever been.
Amen. I
Yeah.
just said this, that for a very long time, I was very sick. I was on 8 different pharmaceuticals. And it's just so interesting that when I left that system and I got off all those pharmaceuticals, I actually got better. And so, in Western medicine, kind of the concept is we're going to make you better by putting you on all these medications. It's not, we're going to make you better by taking you off medications. It's
Right.
what we are doing is actually unraveling and undoing everything that's been done to us.
Hmm. Yes, I think that's amazing, right? It's like these things have been done because it keeps medical patients as medical patients. So yeah,
Yep.
finding someone and dating them who like sees that
Mm-hmm.
and is on the same page with that and doesn't just run to their doctor, that's hard. And like I'd be okay with it if they're, like I'm like super no. If they're, at least questioning it and kind of like not running to the doctor, but okay, they'll certain things, okay. We can work on that. If
Yeah,
their mind is open to it.
you said it's hard to find, but you know what? It'd be really hot to find, wouldn't it?
Right? Uh-huh. It's funny. There's this shirt that I've seen before where it says, it's like in a heart and it says, "You had me at F the system."
Yes.
Like, yes. Uh-huh. Literally, like, please say it.
And there are men out here, watching this and saying, "Hey, I can be appreciated for being who I am," because I know that there must be guys out there in all age groups that are watching this. Here are 2 single women who are thinking this way, one in her 30s, one in her 50s. And yeah, we like when men take charge of their health. We do have some comments that came in. So Mike Z says, my doctor said Mylanta. Okay, no more Mylanta. Great.
Uh-huh.
There's
Right?
so many other things that can be done for gut health that are within our control at home, things that we can do, not even anything we need to take, but just what
Right.
we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get back to talking about dating, and what's kind of what the things that other things that might fall apart when you meet somebody. You think of
Mm.
anything else that falls apart when you have a connection? I know this has happened to me, that I've gone on a date before and I thought that everything was going really well. No, not no red flags coming up. There seems to be a connection. Everything's going wonderfully, and then I never hear from him again. So, we call that ghosting in the dating world, but, it's kind of like, what happened? Why didn't he call? Was he expecting me to call him? Because that wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, why the abrupt ending? So, what do you think are some of the things that can go wrong, or why people do, why things like that happen?
Honestly, I feel like it's a lot of like a societal thing at this point too, that it's just kind of like normalized, which I don't agree with. Especially, okay, sure, if you're just messaging, like, hey, what's up? Hey, I'm doing good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. And then you don't hear from them again. Like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Ghost me. Sure, I don't count that. Yeah, if you actually meet someone and take the time to, invest a couple hours in somebody and then you just never hear from them again, I feel like that's just like a lack of accountability too. I do
Yeah.
remember this was, I don't know, maybe a year ago. I went on a date with a guy. It was fine. I didn't feel a connection, like a spark. And I actually was very appreciative. He messaged me to just say, like, hey, I don't think this is a good connection. Wish you all the best. Like, fantastic. I was thinking the same, and that's what, like, for me, I appreciate that because other versus the ghosting, right? Versus
Yes.
the like, just never hear. I think it's weird. I think it's weird. Like, if he hadn't messaged that to me, and he said, like, hey, let's meet up, I would have said, I don't think there's a connection, but best of luck. Because I think that would have been awful for me to then, if he said something, let's get a coffee, and for me to not respond, I think that's rude. I just think it's like
Right.
straight up rude to not respond to someone, whether it's dating, whether it's like a friend, a business connection. If someone, an old friend, if someone reaches out, like, respond, say something. Everyone deserves a response. But
For sure.
especially
If
if
men
you
don't
put
behave that way in
time
business, they would never leave a business, a business associate hanging.
in.
So
Mhm,
why,
right.
it's men should treat dating the same way that they treat business, and that they should just be honest and have some closure there
Mhm,
if there wasn't a connection or they weren't feeling it. It's just
right.
strange because when I do feel like, oh, there might be a connection,
Mhm,
I'm just thinking in my head, well, I'm feeling this way, or I'm feeling so great that this is going somewhere, or feels right. They surely are feeling the same way, because otherwise, or even meeting somebody. I will say that a few weeks ago, I did have an encounter, just organic, in the just
oh,
yeah, one of those that
cool.
are right magically. You always, you think maybe there's some divine intervention when something like that happens. And as we're talking, it turns out he's like, oh, and I have done carnivore before. I
Uh-huh.
know carnivore. And we start talking carnivore and talking about health and fitness. And it's just, even other people that I knew, that were work people who I knew were there, and saw this going down, and were like, oh. However, it was just kind of like, well, it was nice meeting you, and there was no, so when something like that happens, we have to say to ourselves too, oh, number one, they're not interested, or number two, they're not available. Because
Yes,
in the organic world, we don't know. Even in the dating world, we don't know.
right.
So
Mhm. And then actually, yeah, someone I had met, like, at Run Club, who then, like, yeah, we were like hitting it off, talking, and I said, like, hey, well, we could probably stand here and talk all night, but I've got to go. Why don't you take my number? And he was like, oh yeah, sure thing. Took my number, texted me right away, say, like, hey, it's me. And then, yeah, never heard. And I think I responded, like, later when I got home, it was great meeting you. And he said, yeah, you too. Never heard from him again. My friend was like, I bet he has a girlfriend, and he was considering cheating on her and then thought better of himself. I'm like, I guess so, but like, it still would have at least been nice to know, like, hey, sorry, I don't think I don't want to, like, hey, I just got back with my girlfriend, whatever, right? Like, say something.
be honest, be transparent.
Right. Like, I'm not going to be mad about it. This is even actually the Doritos guy, right? Like, eventually when I when I got upset with something one night, and that was the last time I saw him, but I was like, "Hey, call me tomorrow," and then never heard from him, which I'm like, just say something. Like, okay. So eventually, I want to say, after like 5 days, I was like, "So, I guess we're not seeing each other anymore." And you ghosting me has proved you never valued me in the first place. So good luck. But it's like, right, like, how do you just, like, not say something? That
Right.
just blows my mind. It's like human decency. It's not even, like, it's not personal. If this doesn't work out, like, that's okay. You're not committed to me when we go on a few dates or when we date for a few months, even. We're not in a lifelong thing. If it's no longer working for you, that's allowed. But you have
I
to
guess it's
say that.
better on the front end than years down the road. But it's even
Mhm.
just so convenient these days for people to be honest, but they don't take that road because you can always just text message. It's not even a phone call or a face to face anymore. So there's a episode in Sex in the City where Carrie is her boyfriend breaks up with her on a post-it note, and it's like texting is now that post-it note.
Yeah.
And she was so like, oh my gosh, he broke up with me on a post-it note.
Right.
But these days, how long would it take for somebody just even a text message? That would be the most horrible way to do it, but at least just be honest in any way,
Right.
shape, or form. Send the text and just be like, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not that into you.
Right. Like something that's what always gets me. Like, yeah, I personally would prefer something a little more personal than that. But yeah, at least a text to say, like, hey, this isn't working for me. I'm not into it anymore. Good luck. You don't
Yeah.
even need to give a whole excuse, just this is no longer working. Like the first boyfriend I had when I moved to South Carolina, who like, yeah, it was good. It was actually really great at first, but then I just kept like noticing some red flags. Video games was a big one because I think it's really unhealthy. And when
Yeah.
he got a new gaming console and I saw him like clicking away, I was just like, I'm so turned off. But then, and I actually, when I decided I needed to end things, he lives 45 minutes away from me. I drove there to
Mm-hmm.
break it off, like I don't want to break your heart. So let me at least like, have you're worth a drive. You're a good man. It's just not working for me, but you're a great person. I don't want to be unkind and send like a, hey, let's cut it off. Like
No,
at
you
least
did it the right way. That's absolutely the way to do it. You do it in person. You have a
that's what I think.
conversation.
Yeah, there was another one who lived like an hour away, and I called him because like I'm like I don't have time to come drive an hour. And we were gonna meet up later that morning. So I'm like, I don't want you coming here for me to break up with you. So I'm gonna call you before you get in the car to come this way. Like at least like a conversation, like
Right.
something. But the fact that there's nothing a lot of times, and that's
Do
what
you
I don't know
think
what has happened to society.
and that's kind of my lead to is just as far as dating, do you think that old fashioned dating, that do you think that's gone, and that kind of like this hookup culture or this hanging out has kind of taken its place? And so I find the carnivore lifestyle is very traditional,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of back to basics, and it is in a way very old fashioned because we're going back to our roots. It's
Right.
the way our ancestors ate, and so it
Uh-huh.
has at its root and at its core that classic. It kind of goes with traditional dating. And so could it be possible that with us being of the carnivore lifestyle and wanting that kind of traditional dating, that it's a clash with what's happening today in our modern world? Is old fashioned dating dead?
I like to stay hopeful and say it's not dead, it's dormant.
Hmm.
Or like it's just not that common, but I'd like to say it's not totally dead. I think a lot of people want that instant gratification. A lot of people have gone on like a very, relaxed, informal. Even I saw something where it was like, a parent teacher conference, and the teacher is, like sucking on a lollipop with like her hair in like a scrunchie or whatever, and it's like, yeah, so like your kid's great, yeah, he's nice, he's pretty cool, yeah, oh yeah, we call him, like whatever the name they made up as his like nickname, like we call him Hershey Bar, because he's so cute and yummy. And it's like it's like everything is extra, like so laid
Ex-
back and casual. And that's where like, yeah, when it's like, hey, want to hang out? I'm like, you can ask me on a date. Like we can hang out once we are in a relationship. Yeah, like it's not going to be like a formal date every night of the week when we're committed to each other. But in the beginning, like court me. Yeah.
Right. Courting. It's good old fashioned courting. So in your mind, because you're in your 30s,
hmm
what does courting look like?
I think part of it is like asking questions to get to know the person is a big part of it. Also initiating seeing each other and like
And
doing
that the
some
man should be initiating. So at
yeah,
the end of the first date, if he had such a great time, he should ask you out for a second date because his
yeah.
goal is that long-term relationship that's leading somewhere and he wants to take you off the market.
Right, exactly. And
Right?
that's where too, I feel like a lot of times it's like I feel like I'm left wondering if he's actually into me. And I don't want to have to wonder that because I feel like if I'm asking that question, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If he leaves you in confusion, it
hmm
probably means he's not that into you, or there's something that is
hmm
blocking him from being able to be in a relationship.
Right. And yes, exactly. That's a good point. And that's whether it's, the specific connection or just like he's not in the place that where I want a man to be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he's just trying to like date around and hook up, or he's, dealing with childhood trauma still. And like I've worked through my stuff a lot, most of it anyway. Right. Like I've put the work in to not have so many hangups holding me up. And it's hard to find someone who's not, and who's like on that same page as me with
Mm-hmm.
actually doing something about it.
So
And I'm
Moko
like,
Man in the comments said, "Oh, what's that?"
like I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's
No,
perfect.
no, no, no.
But
You're
like, like
you are
be
speaking truth.
intentional. Yeah, like be
You're
intentional about your healing, whether that's in the mind, the body, like do things
Mhm.
to help yourself heal.
and and number one, when people start to eat better,
hmm
their brains work better and their hormones work better, and then their emotions are more under control, or they have emotions, or they even have a sex drive. Ah,
hmm hmm
Moko Man in the comments said, sadly, we live in a quick and easy society. And it's true that it's almost like, men think that women are going to come to them like pizza delivery.
Right.
They're in 30 minutes based on whatever they order online. And perhaps, women are partially at fault with this because, there is that woman or women out there that will go in 30 minutes and be there like pizza delivery and arrive, hot and ready to,
That's
be
that's
consumed.
what I don't understand. Excuse me. I really don't understand. And okay, I got my first, as they call it, an unsolicited dick pic.
For those
Sorry,
who don't know,
the
I
way
know
to say it.
my mother might watch this, so
Mine probably is too. Sorry, mom. It was really bizarre. This was just very recently. It was someone who I went on a few dates with like a decade ago, maybe. And I'm like, oh hey, like I moved. Okay, hope you're well. I didn't have his number saved. Then he had to remind me how we met because it's
right.
been probably 10 years would be my guess. And he said, can I send you a picture? I said, no, thank you. Because I don't know. I honestly
You
kind of
don't
want
know what he's going to say.
like a selfie is what I was thinking because I don't remember what he looks like. It's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I could, I guess and then I looked at my phone again. It was a picture of his penis. And sorry, I sent it before you responded. Okay, then why'd you ask, first of all? But also, like, why would you send that? Do women like would they be like, ooh, wish I was there? Like
we don't really get off on that.
right. That's
Men
I
that
just
are
like don't
watching,
understand. Like, did you think
we
I'd be
don't
like,
really get
ooh,
off
let
on
me
that.
hop on a plane and hop on it? Like, what? Why? Why? I don't like, can someone tell me why this is a thing that
I think
happens like
because
that?
men are visual, so they think that we are as well, like in that regard. So,
Did
yeah.
he thinks I would just be like, hey, looks good?
So I do have to ask, was it decent?
I single, I guess. But even still, it's just like I don't want it. Like
Right.
I don't even
Oh,
know
goodness.
you. Like literally, I don't remember you from 10 years ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 10 years, and then he sends the message, and he expects you to just pick up where you guys left off 10 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
you remember his number.
Right. I mean, we literally went on like maybe 2 or 3 dates. I don't know. It's been that long.
Yeah,
And
and then you
that's
need to
just
announce yourselves. Like, say if you haven't spoken to a woman in a long time and you are texting her, it's like you are starting from ground zero,
yeah, like
from the
who does
beginning. You need to explain why you haven't. You first say who you are. Say why haven't you been around? Give an excuse and then an
well,
apology, and then go from there.
that would be if he had good intentions.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is like, I don't even know what your intention is, especially after I said, I don't, you live in California. We live on opposite sides of the country. Why? Like, that's why I was just like, oh, hey, hope you're well. Once he said who he was, like, I don't really want to rekindle the couple dates we went on. Like, I have no desire to do that. I'm sorry. We live nowhere near each other. Forget about it. It's okay. Again, like, all the best. Wish you well. And then also,
Oh,
like, why did you say, "Can I send you a picture?" Why did he ask that?
he probably did that to about 20 other women
Yep.
at the same time. It was a
Yep.
copy and paste. I call it
Mhm.
man spam. Carnivore. It's
Yeah,
man
right?
spam, but he sent that copy paste. He sent his meat to multiple women that night.
And it's just that's where it's like, okay, that's great, you're a confident man, but, like, that's not what I'm going for in the confidence area. Like,
Right.
that's looking for your ego to be stroked. I'm not about
Yes.
that, like,
Yeah.
needless to say, I didn't answer. Mom, in case you're still listening, Mom, I did not respond.
Yes.
Like, I'm
Um,
looking like, "Oh, what are
so
you"
what advice would you give to people who are on the carnivore lifestyle, or just who are out there dating in the single world? What's some good advice that you would give to somebody who's going out there, whether it's online or organically?
I would say just like what God told me the other day, surrender.
Your mom is
Surrender.
listening. We just got the
Thanks,
comment from
Mom.
mom. She is listening.
Uh-huh.
Hi, mom.
Right? Hey, Mama. But no, really, I would say just like be hopeful, hold on to whatever hope you have. I know for me, even like guys I've, went out with where it wasn't a good match for whatever reason, whether it's life's lack of, same lifestyle or lack of chemistry. Um, those experiences I think like get me closer to what I want. If it's like, okay, this guy, checks my boxes, he's great, no chemistry. Okay, well, so now I know what I'm looking for in that department. This guy, great chemistry, love his energy, love being together, doesn't check all of my boxes. Okay, I know the feeling I want to get when I'm dating someone from that chemistry aspect. Okay, now we need to merge. And okay, so stay hopeful and surrender and trust God. That's really the most I can say on advice is like that internal part of it.
And I think that's also part of the carnivore lifestyle, because we're talking about trusting our intuition when
Mhm.
it comes to what we eat and how we feel. And like you were explaining, just about your electrolyte imbalance,
Yeah.
and you kind of knew what it was, and you fine tuned it. That it's also good to do that out there when dating.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
And
point. Uh-huh. Like add a little bit more salt or a little less salt, a little more potassium, and then gets just right.
yeah, you're running an experiment until you get it just
Mhm.
right. It's Goldilocks.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Exactly. Little too much, little too little.
And when it's right, you'll know it and you'll feel it. Just like, when you hit optimal health on the carnivore lifestyle, we know it, we feel it.
Mhm.
We're like, oh, this is incredible. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I've never felt like this before. Same
Mhm.
thing with finding the right person and that compatibility in dating.
I think so. And I think too, it's like to remind ourselves, just like with any aspect of life, It's a work in progress. Keep making progress. It's not going to be perfect. Just like, and I think too with relationships, like so many people, it's on that same like easy access and like quick and easy route, right? People want it to like just be perfect right away. And then as soon as there's a conflict, it's like, no, I'm over it. I'm out. It's like, no, maybe we do need to try at it and like put a little effort in. If it's so hard that like you're miserable, yeah, then it's not a good match. But don't just run away at the first sign of difficulty.
Very true. Yep. That the good things take hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes effort and intention, just like with our eating. Like, right?
Exactly.
I need to make sure I thaw the ribeye before I need to eat it. You know, I need to,
Pre-planning. Yes, you got to
yes. And like,
pre-plan.
I don't like eating past, roughly 3 p.m. So that means I need to make sure I eat earlier. Or like tonight, like, right, I have to make sure I ate before my client at 2 p.m. because otherwise when we're done, I'm going to be eating at 10 o'clock at night. Well, I'm not doing that. So I have to eat earlier, right? Planning and intentional planning to make sure you
Intentional.
feel good.
Yep, I love that word intentional. And intentional dating. It's intentional eating, which also, in this lifestyle, it's intentional dating. It's not a matter of wasting time or just binging on things that aren't good for us, but
Mhm.
a matter of being intentional and true. And Tim in the comments said, find one that you can grow old with. So I think
Right?
a list of things that you are looking for. What are some things that you are looking for out there?
I mean, kind of like what we've been saying, that like healthy lifestyle. And that to me encompasses a lot of things. Like whether or not he's carnivore, that's debatable. Whether like that wouldn't be a requirement if he wants to be carnivore, but at least open to the idea of it, and not like, oh, you don't eat vegetables, that's unhealthy. At least like have some open-mindedness in that regard, and like have some sort of like physical activity that's a priority, have some sort of like a life outside of work as well. Even if it's not every day or even every single week, like have something you do, I think is important to me, right? It's like that question of like,
Passion.
what,
He should
yeah,
have a passion.
right, right. And it's the whole question of like, what do you do? When people ask that, they're always asking like, what do you do for work? Is the question of what do you do? When people say that, I'm often like, I do life.
Oh, nice.
I do enjoying life. Uh-huh. What do you do?
I'm going to
And
try
so,
that and
oh,
see what response I get.
right. Because then it's like, are you asking like what I do like every day? Are you asking like what does that mean? What do you do? I do a lot. I walk my dog. I do jigsaw puzzles. Like, what are you? Oh no, you mean what I do for work? Why is that the first question you want to know about me?
Good point.
Do you have anything else you like to do that can be topics of conversation? So I think that's just, and it shows too, I think, where people's priorities are. If that's all that's important to you is work, that's going to be a little harder. Like that's important, don't get me wrong. Um, but also like that's first, So yeah, I think the healthy lifestyle though is a really, really big one for me. Like what does he put into his body? Like I don't want a man who's taking like SSRIs. It doesn't do the brain
Right.
well. I've been
Yeah.
there before. I'm not about that. I know what it does. I don't want a man who's just eating a bunch of soy products and fake meat because that's really, really unhealthy. And like you were saying, the hormone imbalances.
It's very feminizing and
Yeah.
does create problems. I will say that, you're in your 30s and you know this information. And I wish I had known the information that you know and that I know now. I wish I'd known it when I was in my 30s. So you are so ahead of the game. You have so much knowledge and insight that took me 20 something years down the road from where you are in order to get to this point. So that's
Mhm.
wonderful. Yeah. So Tim saying, questions to ask: what do you like to do for fun, and what do you like to do in your spare time? Exactly, because that's
Right.
what you would connect on. Because
Right.
then you can say me too and then talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, or like, oh, I've never done that before. Tell me about it. Not everything needs to be in common. Like I like for exercise, I enjoy doing bar classes. Men don't usually. It's not
Let's
meant
hope
for men.
not.
That's okay. Like that doesn't have to be a thing we do together, but to be like,
Right.
oh, what is bar? I've never heard of that. Like, what is it like? And like be interested in learning about each other. Just like, if I'm dating someone who does, um, whatever is like into building things. Like I don't build things, but like tell me about it. I'll try and learn because I want to learn what you like. I don't
Yes.
want to help necessarily, like I don't want to get into it myself, but tell me more. So
Learning
yeah, I
new
think that's just
things is
like,
that's such a big and wonderful part of a relationship is
mhm.
learning new things, learning to do new things from somebody else because they change you.
Yeah,
Hopefully in a good way, but
right.
you learn things along the way from somebody and then they change you and you change them in a good
Hmm.
way. That's how we grow.
Right. And even again, if it's not something like you want to do, you just want to learn about it because the person I'm with enjoys it so much, I want to learn about it.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
seems to be rare.
It's what part seems to be rare of them
Like
asking these questions
yeah,
or
that like other people are on the same mindset as like wanting to learn about it just because someone I care about likes it versus like, oh, I want to learn about this because I want to do it. You know what
right.
I'm saying? That difference, it's like um if someone likes knitting, I don't necessarily want to start knitting, but if I care about the person and my grandma wants to tell me about knitting, yeah, show me how to do it. That doesn't mean I'm going to pick up knitting as a hobby, but
Right.
please tell me about it because you enjoy it. So I want to enjoy it as much as, at least like enjoy hearing about it. And I feel
It's
like
a
a lot of people
connector.
it's like, oh no, I don't have any interest in learning to knit.
Right. No, right.
Right?
It shows you care and it connects you further
Right.
with that
Right.
person. Yep.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I have heard that men love to teach women.
Mhm.
So, I have been in situations where I'm like, show me, teach me.
Mhm.
I would love to go out shooting.
Mhm.
So, show me, teach me. I would love to go out horseback riding. Show me, teach me.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of things and men out there that do these things. I've heard that they do love to show and teach, which that would be good.
Okay, I gotta say this because you mentioned shooting. So I shoot. Um, the first 5 out of 5 guys I dated since moving to South Carolina showed me their guns. Like it was like
Nice.
at first time I went over to their house, ooh, let me show you my guns. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Right. 'Cause that's something I know about. They're like, ooh, let me show you this one. Ooh, look, here's how you take it apart. I'm like, awesome. It's
But you
something, yeah,
already
like
knew.
because they want to show me. They want me to, like, ooh, I got this one, I got that one. I'm like, neat. Like, and I'm still new to it, so I do want to learn more. Tell me what kind it is, what kind of ammo. Like, I don't know it all. I'm still very new. So, that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, they just want to show it too. And knowing that I at least have, have some interest in it and do want to see it. Yeah, they want to show me more of it. Cool.
I bet not a lot of women out there. Maybe the carnivore women are all about seeing the guns, but not all women
Right.
want to see
Right.
the guns. So
Exactly.
they're happy when they have when they have an audience that really wants to see the guns.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's I think always the guys at the shooting range like get a kick out of it because I'm like a regular there on Ladies' Day. They
Mhm.
do ladies shoot free on Wednesdays. Like I'm there most
Wow.
Wednesdays. And they're like, hey, see you next week.
And that would be a great first date place is or another place to hang out to meet like-minded men might be at the shooting range.
Right? I know that's what I'm thinking. Like if they know it's Ladies' Day and I'm there, like, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but one of those things, like, I just have hope that like God's gonna send who I need when I need it, and like we're all on this journey of life. And I think the more we can have faith and trust in God that like his plan's going to happen, it's just like, it's not up to us when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. Just continue to have faith.
Have faith, trust. Have faith and trust that it will happen.
Yeah, exactly. And whatever is meant to happen, it's going to happen. So that's okay. That's okay.
And
Let
you
it
know
happen.
what? In the meantime, truthfully, single life is not so bad. You have your
Yeah.
dog, I have my cat.
Yeah. Right. It's really
Life
not
is
like,
good. Life
it's
is good with
good.
ribeyes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I cook my
Ribeyes over
ribeye.
guys.
It works. I can take my detoxing baths. Like no one's annoyed with me because I'm not doing something else. It's fine. Yeah. Like that's exactly. It's one of those things. Like it's working for now for me because I want to have a family. It's not going to work forever. But it's great for now.
So Heather, how can people get in touch with you? Let's say a guy is watching right now and is like, I want to date Heather. Or people have questions that, they want to ask you about the carnivore lifestyle or being single and carnivore. How can they find you?
So I would say email me. It's my business email is probably the best one because I check it the most often. It's together with Coach Heather at gmail.com. It
And
rhymes.
I'm going to put it in the comments so people will have
Cool.
it and they'll see it. So I'm going to drop it right now in the comments.
Cool. Yeah, that would
So
probably be the easiest way. I'm happy to connect, if we're able to, whether it's, potentially romantic or just like let me know, if you have questions about like my experience with carnivore. And it's interesting too, when you were asking me like what I mean by strict carnivore, I forgot this part. Before I started like fully 100% carnivore, it took about 5 weeks of like working my way toward it, transitioning toward it, where I was kind of, like 70% carnivore, maybe 80%, 90, 95% before diving in. The joint pain did not get any better when I was doing like all carnivore plus a few figs off my neighbor's tree. That did not improve until I cut out the figs. That was
the
my like
figs were,
last.
oh, yeah. So
They
you
were
had
so
to cut out
good.
all fruits and all vegetables before you got
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, and people were saying that like sometimes 95% isn't going to do it. It needs to be 100%. And I'm like, man, all right, let me try it. And the energy level too has been another game changer. I used to feel like I'd get tired every afternoon between like 2 and 4, and I don't anymore. And sometimes I wake up at 5 a.m. like, hey, time for the day. And I don't have to be up that early, but I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll go to the gym at 6 instead of 7:30.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I know it hasn't been a straight road for you all the way up, because I've seen in the carnivore chats where you're like, "Help! This is happening," or this, or I'm still having this. You've had some issues along the way, but those things are normal and they kind of work themselves out as you fine tune and you find what works for you. But anyone who is wanting to take the 30-day challenge and try the carnivore lifestyle, just know, like, you should, just like in dating, you shouldn't give up. But don't give
Right.
up on it just because you're feeling bad. There's a detox process that does happen.
Mhm.
Some people experience diarrhea and just some uncomfortable symptoms up on the front end as they transition from, this carb addiction, the sugar addiction,
Mhm.
and using that as fuel to going into ketosis and using fat as fuel, and then kind of getting that fine tuning of how much fat that you can actually take in a day, kind of low and slow, and build up from there, or you'll be spending a lot of time in the bathroom.
Yeah. Right? And it's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's the same thing, like learning what works best, fine tuning it.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, Heather, it has been an absolute pleasure having
Thank you.
you. It's just been fun. It's been absolute girl
Absolutely.
talk, and hopefully
Uh-huh. I
people
love
got
it. Thank you.
hopefully
Right.
people got some good suggestions also for the carnivore lifestyle, but also just some hope for finding the right person and the right lifestyle
Mhm.
out there for them. So yeah.
Absolutely.
It
At
was
least give
wonderful
you
having you.
some entertaining laughs with us along the way too.
Yes, I hope. Yes, yes. Even your mother. I hope she
Aw.
recovers from the information that you shared tonight, and my mother too. That both our
Well,
mothers
hey,
are
at least they
okay.
didn't have to see the picture.
Right. At least it would. Yeah. He didn't send it to your mother, thankfully.
Thank God.
Exactly. So this is my last show of the season 2024. I'm going to be back in January with more guests. And Heather, I'd love to have you back. We'd love to stay in touch and
Yeah.
see, maybe you'll meet somebody in 2025 and you can
Right?
come back and tell us
Right?
all about your dating adventures and your new man and your and your carnivore lifestyle as you continue through 2025.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you, Tali.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night. It was great. It was a great show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.